What's up, friends? This is Jazz, finally bringing you another video game review after a long time. This is on Life is Strange 2. Now guys, a few things. One, there's going to be some spoilers for some of the story and the endings of the story. But I'm going to try not to go through the whole story in this to keep it simpler for me, and for the whole thing won't be spoiled for you guys. But if you don't want any spoilers, I suggest you go away now. But if you don't really care or you've played it, go on ahead. I'm going to be borrowing some clips because I was so immersed in my experience that I didn't get any video footage for it. Yeah, I just wanted to enjoy the moment. And also, this might be a bit rambly, so yeah, sit back, find something else to do while you're listening or watching this. I would highly recommend that. So, I will just say a bit about the story. It's about two brothers who lose their father because of parent racism. The father isn't even. We'll just say that there's a bully who's also a racist. Daniel has fake blood poured on him because it was near Halloween at the time. Things escalate where Sean pushes, or he gets pushed over and knocked out, or having a seizure. I don't know what it is, and the cop has the wrong idea. The father wasn't even outside at that point, goes out to try to calmly rationalize with the officer, but instantly shot, almost on the scene. Barely a few words out. And Daniel gets so mad that somehow a big sonic boom, or whatever it is, he has powers, well, they say, kills the police officer and causes a lot of damage. So guys, in this situation, if you were in this situation, what do you think the best choice would be? Yeah, if you said wait for the officers to come and explain yourself, explain the situation, you are right. What does Daniel do? We have a few minutes to guess again. A few seconds to guess again. If you just did what he should have done, you are absolutely wrong. He grabs Daniel, who is knocked out at this point, and flees. Yes, Sean. That is a very stupid move on your part. Yes, I know it's kind of a hard situation to explain, but better than what you did. Now, Daniel has no recollection his father is dead. And they go on a lovely brother trip, apparently, and he so wants his father to be there too. So, let's play that game again. The right choice would have obviously been to sit down and tell Daniel the bad news. Yes, he's not, but he has to, he'll know eventually, right? Wanna guess again how Sean reacts? We got like 2 seconds. He does the complete opposite again. He says, oh, he just can't join us. Sean, 2 for 2 there. And in the wrong area. Oh, brother. And it's just gonna get worse and worse. But again, I'm not spoiling the whole story for you. This is pretty much a road trip story of the brothers trying to find safety, right, from an unjust world. And again, Daniel eventually finds out in the absolute wrong way, mind you. But after that, it's just them surviving in a world that is pretty much out to get them. I mean, they do find some nice people along the way that help them and such. And I know this is very short of me narrating it, but honestly, you'll hear more in the endings in a minute. So guys, before I get to the endings, I'm going to talk about the gameplay mechanics. There are 2 main systems, the morality and the brotherhood. Morality is how moral Daniel is by the end. Brotherhood is more likely how he would trust you in a situation. So the endings are affected by your moral, pretty much. The brotherhood might have some to do with it, but it's mostly the morality, so that's the most important thing. And guys, yes, your choices actually matter in this game. There's things that Daniel may do or not do, depending on your brotherhood, I believe, or how moral he is, or how, like, good he is, or bad he is. So, and there's 4 endings, unlike the 2 almost guaranteed endings in Life is Strange 1 and Before the Storm. And even a few more depending on your datables, right? So, but they're similar. So, you can make choices that will affect how Daniel will perceive and grow up, and how he makes choices of his own, in a way. If you do things like stealing or hurting people, obviously that will lower his morale. Or if you do things that are really good, like choosing to spare someone or buying things, not begging, you know, like in the first episode, it'll raise his morale. If you listen to Daniel more, choose to spend time with him, his brotherhood will raise. But if you choose like other things and are more hard on him in certain areas, his brotherhood would lower. But at the same time, some of those choices means his morale will change negatively too. So it's interesting because really the things you do actually have consequences, unlike the other game, which I absolutely love. By the way, now that we got this out of the way, let's talk about the 4 endings, which I know I am spoiling for you, but this is the only things I'm going to spoil for you. Now, there are 4 endings in total. One ending is called Redemption, which is if Daniel has very high morale. You will get to, you finally get cornered when you're so close to Mexico. That's the point. Sean wants to go to Mexico, his homeland, right, with Daniel, because I think there's rules are different there and they can't extradite them or something too. And that was the home of his father. So, like, the whole story is told in the form, like, every episode, there's 5 of them, is opened by narration, and Sean and Daniel and the other characters are represented by animals. Obviously, the brothers are wolves, and Daniel will ask how the wolf story ends. You can choose, like, this is if you choose surrender, and if his morale is high enough, Daniel will agree, and you'll both get out of the car. Sean will be actually arrested because he was old enough for all the charges. There's a lot along the way. As I said, Sean royally messed up a lot in the game regardless, so he is arrested, and Daniel, since he's only 10 by the end of this, is taken to live with his grandparents, which you see in episode 2. And you grow up, and 15 years later, Sean is released. So he spends the majority of his teen life in his 20s in prison, and Daniel gets to live a normal life with his grandparents and his friends. Like, actually, the character of Captain Spirit, Chris, is in there, and he becomes friends with Chris and grows up with Chris, right? And they're reunited. And depending if you have a friend at the beginning, if you continue to contact her through the story, she'll be there to greet you, along with your mother who abandoned you 8 years ago. That's part of the story too. But I think if you have a good relationship with her by the end, if you forgive her and you get to know her, she'll be one of the ones waiting. And maybe she does anyway, I don't know. But I had good friendship with her anyway, so that wouldn't have mattered. But the sad thing is, it's a good ending in a way because they're eventually reunited, but poor Sean lives half of his life, just little less than half of his life in prison, and doesn't get to experience graduation or any of that because he's 16 when he's arrested. And Daniel is all happy and everything, but he breaks down, Sean. So that is a good ending, considered a good ending in a way, because they eventually do reunite, but it just is a little bittersweet for your character. The next ending is on the same note, but if you choose the opposite choice, which is to cross the border. If Daniel has a high morale, he will just use enough power to get things out of the way and then jump out of the car, and Sean makes it to Mexico. There's no way they can go after Sean, but they do take Daniel in. Now, he is not arrested like in the other one, but he is forced to be in house arrest to some degree, or wear a Weikle monitor. So if he contacts Sean, they could probably, or visit Sean or whatever, they could get in contact with him. Now, they are never fully reunited in this ending, but they keep in contact. Sean sends him a letter, to him, Daniel's with his grandparents again, and them and the mother is on good terms now. They weren't before either. She abandoned them too. But there's characters that you could romance in the third part, and depending on who you do, or if you choose to, one of them will be there, or he'll be alone in the picture he sends to Daniel. So that is one of the other endings too. Like, there's about 8 other endings, or 4 other endings depending on the romance. Right, Lila will be in the other one if you continue to befriend her, but if not, it's just Daniel and your mother. So this is considered probably the best ending in a way, because yes, they may not be together, but they both kind of have what they want. Daniel gets to grow up relatively normal, except for the ankle bracelet, and Sean lives in the area he wanted to be in. So this is probably the best ending, minus the fact they're not together and will ever be able to be together until they stop monitoring Daniel. So, guys, the last 2 endings are indicated by Daniel having low morale. Now, this ending I'm about to talk about is the absolute worst ending in the game, and that is Lone Wolf. That is if Daniel has low morale, but you ask him to surrender. He will absolutely refuse and force you guys over the border, but Sean, your character, is shot fatally. By the time, and Daniel does not realize this at all until they actually make it across. So Daniel is kind of left a street orphan, and yeah, he's left a street orphan and grows up to be relatively bad. He causes damage, robs a bank for millions, threatens others when they threaten him, which again I guess is self-defense, because I don't think he actually kills any of them in that scene. But he also is seen visiting the memorial site he made for Sean, and he's forever alone. And this is probably the worst outcome, because Daniel has completely gone the wrong path and he's alone during this. Now, the final ending is considered one of the best, next to Parting Ways. And I forgot to mention that was what the second ending was that I mentioned, was Parting Ways. The third episode was Lone Wolf, and this part, the last one, is called Blood Brothers. Now, this is if Daniel has low morale and you choose to cross the border. Daniel will have no problem with that. Get out, making it look like he's at least surrendering, and just attack everyone out of the blue, knocking everyone out or killing a lot of them. He gets back in when the coast is clear and he says, I'm ready to go. So they cross the border safely and live their life out in Mexico. Now, I said this is considered one of the best, but not the best, because they killed a bunch of people, for crying out loud, but they're together. But you can sort of tell that Daniel isn't completely satisfied. He does follow his brother, because he would anywhere if he's close to him, but he just wasn't ready for Mexico. Unlike Sean, he didn't understand the language going in. He may have learned since then, but he's kind of out of place in a way. They also do run the old mechanic shop that their father had, and use the powers in self-defense, but it looks like they may have robbed places too, to a degree. So it doesn't seem like Daniel is at least in as dark of a path, but they both are sort of. In a way, they kind of get to share that in a way. So how Lone Wolf was the absolute worst, this for me would be like the second best in that way, I believe. I mean, they're together. This is the only one I believe that they're absolutely together the whole time, right? So guys, you're probably wondering what old Jazz got. Actually, this very ending, Blood Brothers. And thank heaven I hit my gut. I had a gut feeling I should choose to cross the border when he asked how it ended. Because if I had not, I would have gotten the absolute worst ending ever. It was more of a choice, a conscious choice when the option popped up. Originally, I was planning to surrender. But I just said, you know, it might feel right to cross the border just this time. And again, thank heavens I did, because I know I would have gotten a Lone Wolf ending. It almost was guaranteed if I had chosen to surrender. Because, and I didn't even know this before I chose it, because I thought maybe I was okay, but I should have known, because before you cross the border, you're captured by the police, at least temporarily. And Daniel, literally, you walk out to see a bunch of police officers just everywhere. I don't know how many were dead, but everywhere. And then you have an option. I think that was the only option, like how to get rid of them. Kill. The option was kill, guys. That may have been what caused my gut feeling that Daniel didn't, like, it even says that Daniel, if he has high morale, will have some qualms about what he did. Daniel was like, just let's go. Nothing at all. No remorse, like, no, is he okay? Like, when you go to check him, he's like, let's go. And that was an option if he had low morale. So I chose the right choice. Yes, I know it was bad, he killed everyone, but the ending in the other one would have ended so much worse for Daniel. I would rather this for me was the lesser of two evils in that way. Guys, I swear I'm not a psychopath. This whole ending was unintentional. Like, I didn't even know how he had this low morale. I mean, I chose some good options, like him to spare. Like, let's say he was forced into a cult and I chose him to spare the girl and he listened without issue. Alright. Before we were taken into the police office station that time, I got him to blow the border up. That did it. Because that's at least 4 points against, or 3 points against. Okay, yeah, maybe I am a bit of a sociopath. Guys, don't take that to heart. Don't take that to heart, please. But anyway, guys, let's talk about the atmosphere. The easier parts to talk about. The graphics and the audio and music. Both fantastic. They literally, honestly, the music almost would put someone to sleep. Although I swear that didn't happen to me, guys. I swear. It didn't. But it was so beautiful. And in the right moments, it could play the right type of track, too. Like, if it's an intense scene, there's music that matches it. If it's a sweet scene, it matches it, too. The graphics were, in my opinion, better than the other Life is Strange games. Especially Life is Strange 1. I'm sorry. The main characters were pretty solid. But the others, like, as I said, looked more like Sims 3 characters. They did not have this problem here. The characters looked relatively good for the game. Nothing to really laugh about. So, guys, some about the characters. Most of them were really solid. The main characters, actually, a lot of them had important parts in the game, and they were memorable. I'll admit, Sean, again, but then again, that was based on your choices too, so he was supposed to represent you a little bit too. So, to me, he was a little bit on the note, but Daniel, I loved that character, even though he was a pain in the ass. A good chunk of the time, he was someone you can mold, and that he was meant for that role, and that was done very well. The side characters were memorable, and guess what? Dave the Step was back, and he had such story growth that it's amazing. He went from this hateable character to this almost mentor-like character who is learned through the crap. Like, if you choose to spare Arcadia Bay and kill Chloe, this is what I did, and I said that's what happened. He regrets not being there in the right way for his stepdaughter, and he says that he was terrible for her, and she may have been, he may have not understood her, but that was all. He put it all on him there. He was not the right person for her, right? And he wishes he could have been, or he had that chance to do better by her. And he even gives you the advice that, you guys are still young. If you surrender, maybe your sentence will be more lenient, which obviously I didn't choose, but he was saying that in a practical way, not in a, oh, I'm right type of way. He understood they went through a lot, and the way that the things they did, he didn't completely blame them because they were put through a lot of crap, but he also did kind of say that it would probably be better for them all, including Daniel, if they had surrendered. Which, again, I loved the character of David, even though he was only in the final episode for a short period of time. He even tries to help them escape. So it's a big character growth for David. I loved that cameo in it, and his change of heart. Amazing, honestly. As I said, and all the characters were what they should be, right? There was even some interesting side characters in it too. So I give that a high mark for characters in this game. So, guys, I honestly don't have much critique in this game at all. Nothing to critique in this game at all. It was a wonderful experience. So I will admit the racial tension was a little strong, little hammer on the head, if you know what I mean. Like, don't get me wrong, they're doing it in the positive way. They're portraying it in the way that it's wrong. But at the same time, it's almost a little hilarious how many characters in this game are judging the brothers based on their race or the appearance of their race, right? They don't even listen to them when they say they were born in America, which they were. Right? Yes, they have Hispanic heritage, but they were born in America. Their father wasn't. Their father was Hispanic and had, but he wasn't illegal, I believe, either. He got in there by the right means, I believe, too. But they were judged by it. There were several characters that were so bad it was almost comedic. Now, guys, again, I don't laugh at that type of stuff at all. That's not what I'm laughing about. It is wrong. But it's so strong that it is funny, if you know what I mean. But it can also be a little grating because it gets annoying, and just after a while it's like you go from, wow, that's pretty deep that they're doing that, to not again, type of scenario. You could almost make a game out of that itself by counting how many racial pieces of crap or racist pieces of crap there is in this game, which I'm not going to do in this video. I'm sorry, that would be much of a weak joke. Also, there's 5 episodes. The length of each episode is so inconsistent that it's a little grating too. Some are relatively short. And when I say short, I mean 2 hours. That is considered short in this game. To almost 4 hours in one, I believe. So guys, and plus the save mechanic is automatic. It'll save at certain points that you may not ever be fully aware of. Giving you guys that heads up that the one silver lining in this is that you can pause the game. Yes, guys, that's great. So if you need a bathroom break, you could do that, but you shouldn't ever shut the game off unless you know that the game has saved. Because other than that, you should play the game episode right through. Once an episode is done, you're safe to shut it off for whatever time you need to. But until then, the episode should be completed in its entirety. And that is a bit grinding. Like, if they had at least had a save option, if you could have an option to turn off the automatic save and save yourself, that would help the story a lot more. But, and maybe they don't do that for cheat reasons, like maybe you'd want to do something different, right? And I had done that in one of my playthroughs, because I knew it saved shortly before. But honestly, it still would be a lot more pleasant if they had just given you an option to save, manually. That would have completely cut that issue out. But guys, really, besides those two things, the game for me was really good. For me, the first 2 episodes were a little bit harder to get into, but as soon as I picked it up, 3 to 5, I played them all in a night. Yeah, I was that into it. So it's a story that it's a slow start, which again is another Smitty fault, but not everyone feels that way. So that was just a Jazz thing, so I'm not really giving negative points for that option right there. But it's a ride through the rest of it, which I'm giving a positive point there. So guys, how would I rate this game as a whole? 9 out of 10. Yes, despite the few criticisms I had, they were not enough to hold it back from a really high rating. And I honestly think that this has become one of my favorite games, at least in the story department, right? In that genre of games. Anyway, it has it outed its successor. I never really was the biggest fan, or of his predecessor. I was never the biggest fan of the first Life is Strange, really. I don't know why. It was okay, like, when I was Let's Playing it, and it was kind of a fun ride at the time, but really, it has a lot of flaws. This game, because your choices mattered more, and had more heavier consequences, and the characters just were more relatable to me, I enjoyed the ride a lot more. So guys, I swear, you should try this game. Now, it is $11 an episode, and if the $50 or $60 that it would cost, or the $40 it would cost would be too much, now you can get the first episode is free, though. You can get that for free to try. The other ones are about $11 if you buy them separately. If you want to try it episode by episode, do that. It's a lot cheaper to do. But I recommend anyone who's into games and into story, try this at least once. It's an experience. It may not be for you, and that's fine, but for me, it was an emotional roller coaster enough to pull me in and make me care about these characters. So anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up, and if you're new to this channel and like what you see, please subscribe. It helps this channel a lot. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so you know when new videos are coming out. And I'll see you guys in my next video.